Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Views on the News.
Was the Pope appealing for peace, or was he praying for peace?
And the same applies to the carry-on drag.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what do you have to say about that, guys?
As regulars will know, I attempt to deliver global atheist news in an unbiased, objective, just a reporting way. And this, the spin-off show, is where we have a panel of wise and witty people to give us their opinions. Starting with my co-host, Tersia from South Africa. How the devil are you?
Devilish a little bit, and apparently delayed. As I've been informed that there's a delay, so I shall be speaking in slow motion.
No, it's just the delay is between one of us speaking and when you come back to speak. So you don't have to speak slowly. we also have from British Columbia, our regular Dread Pirate Higgs. How the devil are you? I love that.
Doing well, thank you.
Yeah. And fellow Englishman, Paul Clark. How the devil are you, Paul?
I'm very well, good. Yeah.
Excellent. Good. Well, we've got a packed show tonight, starting with, I'm going to show you a little video of a stabbing attack in Tel Aviv, where a Palestinian from the West Bank came along with his knife and tried to stab as many people as he could. They were sat in I think it's an outside cafe with, table and chairs. There's no sound, but just watch. Nice fellow, isn't he? And it looked as though there was somebody about to brandish a gun at the end of that, but he'd run off. So what do you think about this outbreak of stabbing? Knives have suddenly become more favored weapons, haven't they?
I think it's favored because they can't get hold of a gun, thank heavens.
Yeah, maybe.
In some parts of the world, he would have had a gun and would have killed quite a lot of people.
Yes. We've had stabbing in the UK too, haven't we, Paul?
Oh, God, yeah. Terrible. Awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Do you
About as low as you can get.
Do you get stabbings in Canada, Dread?
Yeah, but not a very high incidence of them. No.
Keep it that way.
Not that I hear about anyway.
Right, yeah. And what about South Africa?
Well, we have, I'm sorry to say, I'm sort of laughing because if I don't laugh, I'll cry. We have regular stabbings. In fact, just a month ago, there was a person stabbed to death in front of the Home Affairs Department office, which is 2 blocks down from where I live. And he was stabbed to death 9 o'clock in the morning in front of a queue of people, and that was gang related. So no connection to religion. But what I wanted to say is that what astonishes me about this attack is how fanatical, brazen, crazy one has to be to desperate, frustrated, what your level of inner frustration has to be if you are willing in Israel, where there are soldiers with guns fairly widespread, and still you are willing to take that risk of running up to a bunch of people sitting in an outdoor cafe and trying to stab them.
Yeah, yeah.
What is
Yeah,
going through your mind?
Yeah, it's
No
really
kidding.
weird. Once you get using sharp implements like that, it's close up. It's, it's blood, it's meat, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So,
It's a
so
weird-
to tell you, I just quickly looked up the stats. In 2023, of the 730 homicides committed in Canada that year, 234 were by stabbing. So,
Ooh.
I guess that's not very
That's
many.
quite a lot.
Is it?
Well, it depends
We
where you're
have,
comparing.
So we have 30 million people. So I don't know. It's 730 homicides in 30 million people. I think that's pretty low, isn't it?
No, not the homicides. Not the homicides. That's not a lot. The percentage of homicides by stabbing is
234.
it's quite significant.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
Britain
I thought
has
they had
a
that in New York
serious
in a week.
Yeah, Paul.
Britain has a serious problem
I
of
thought they
knife crime. That a lot of young men in gangs feel they have to carry a knife with them because they're not safe if they don't. And then inevitably, some of them get involved in fights and end up stabbing someone.
Yeah,
It's a dreadful situation.
We had one reported only today about a 14-year-old who killed a 12-year-old, didn't we?
Mm.
Gross. Mm. So you may remember.
My knife.
Oh,
I carry that around.
Are you allowed to carry it outside?
For me?
Are you allowed to carry it in the street?
Oh yeah, it's a buck knife. It's like 4 inches. So you can't carry anything over 6.
Okay. Well, there was one very significant stabbing here in the UK about 3 months ago, where you will have heard about this because it was horrible. This was a knife attack on a junior dance school in Southport, where 3 schoolgirls, just junior schoolgirls, were murdered, and 8 other schoolgirls. They were dancing to what's her name?
Taylor Swift.
Yeah. And 8 other schoolgirls were attacked, were harmed, and 2 adults were also harmed. He was captured. His name is Axel Ruda Kubana. But since then, the police have revealed that they found ricin, very powerful poison, and a PDF file on his computer called Military Studies in the Jihad Against the Tyrants, the Al-Qaeda Training Manual. Now, there was going to be, it was expected to be many weeks long court case about this, because the parents of the dead children and injured children wanted justice. But amazingly, he changed his plea from innocent to guilty. So there was no case, and was sentenced to 52 years in jail. But that was for murder and attempted murder. He was not charged with preparing for acts of terrorism because it wasn't possible to find evidence of political motivation or ideology. So
there was a very good article in The Guardian, I can't remember, was it today or yesterday, talking about this and talking about where does ideology begin and nihilistic rage end? And, to what extent are the Islamic terrorists really Islamic terrorists? And to what extent are they enraged nihilists?
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting article. I'd recommend it to you. It sort of starts off talking about this case, and it talks about one case of an Islamist terrorist inspired by Islamic State. I think it's a real problem within society, and for some people, Islam is kind of the badge they stick on their nihilistic rage, whereas this
Yeah.
guy didn't stick any religious label on his nihilistic rage, but it was there, and it was one of the most shocking crimes that we've had in Britain in recent years. Absolutely dreadful.
It's terrible. So the difficulty is proving intention, isn't it? I mean, just having access to that sort of weird terrorism information doesn't mean that it was what motivated you.
No, of course not. So what, I mean, I suppose he would have been subject to, a longer term had he been convicted of preparing for terrorism.
He would have got a whole life term, but he was under 18 when he did it.
By a couple of days.
Yeah, and for that reason, he couldn't be sentenced to a whole life term. But otherwise, he would have got that.
We don't really expect him to come out, to be honest.
Well, and I'm sure he's going to get a considerable education while in prison. He'll be picking up the soap, I'm sure, in the shower. So there's that.
Well,
yeah.
Anyway, I'm not too concerned about how he fares in jail. I just want to keep him out of the public's way. Yeah. So we can't let Trump escape from this show, can we? And Trump. And I know you're building a wall up in Canada, Dred, because you don't want to become the 51st state, and you want to keep all the
one.
No, and you don't want. I know there's a lot of Americans who are trying to leave America, but you don't want them necessarily coming to Canada.
No, not necessarily.
And anyway, Pope Francis has had a little word to say. He said that Donald Trump's plans to deport illegal migrants from the US, which he started, as you know, today. He's delivered some to where is it? Begins with C.
Colombia.
Yeah, Colombia.
But they turned him away.
Yeah, well, they've given up now. They've accepted now. Yeah, there's been toing and froing, and they've now taken the deported illegals on Trump's terms, as he threatened them with sanctions. However, the Pope is
so he won that round, in other words.
Yes, he did. Yes. But the Pope is expressing his view. He was speaking to an Italian TV program from his Vatican residence, and he said that if the plans went ahead to deport illegal migrants, Trump would make poor wretches that don't have anything foot the bill. That's not right. That's not how you solve problems. He said previously, back in 2016, that a person who thinks only about building walls and not of building bridges is not Christian.
I hate to say it, but I agree with the Pope.
I agree with the Pope, but I find it highly ironic because it's not as if the Catholic Church does a lot for poor immigrants from Colombia and Venezuela, and those are majority Catholic. So it's not as if as if the Roman Catholic Church has a squeaky clean human rights record.
No.
Not by long. So I find it's
pot and kettle.
It's definitely the pot calling the kettle black, right?
Yeah. But Trump is also under the cosh in his own backyard, because at a Washington National Cathedral service, the bishop, a female, the Right Reverend Marianne Edgar Budd, asked Trump for mercy because of the feelings of fear among LGBT and immigrant communities. I'm going to show you another video. Take a look at this.
Mr. President, millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation. But the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here.
What did you think of the service?
What did you think? Did you like it? Did you find it exciting? Not too exciting, was it? I didn't think it was a good service, no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press.
They could do much better.
I thought, watching his face while he was receiving this ticking off was a picture. I don't know whether you want to go back and see it again when this has gone to a podcast, but he's trying to not look bored, but he can't conceal it. His disapproval is written all over his face.
Yeah.
Well, what I can say is that I'm very grateful that I'm no longer a believer, because my response to Donald is extremely Christian, because he elicits within me a visceral disgust that is, I suppose, very unchristlike. You know, he does not know about my existence, but if I had, yes, he is such an awful human being. He reminds me of Jabba the Hutt. Jabba the Hutt in, is it Star Wars?
Jabba the Hutt.
Not Star Wars.
Yes.
And sitting there in the, yeah, Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
And Melania, she gives that bishop the death stare. If looks could kill. So yeah, all I can say is I'm very grateful that I don't have to act in a Christ-like manner, because when it comes to Trump, I just can't.
Yeah, well, this came about, of course, because Trump has recently declared that henceforward there shall only be two genders in America: male and female.
No, obviously,
I suppose Richard Dawkins.
I don't think everyone's just going to suddenly smarten up and wake up one day and say, "Oh, okay, I guess I was wrong."
Mm-hmm.
No, people don't do that, do they? Not readily.
No,
Yeah,
certainly don't.
It fills me with disgust that America voted for that man, knowing who he is. I mean, you know, on January the 6th, 2021, he revealed who he was. Absolutely, if you didn't already know it. And when I see a MAGA maniac with their red cap, I just think of people with their red armbands with swastikas on them.
Yeah, for sure.
And for me, the millions of Americans who voted for Trump this time are exactly the same as the millions of Germans who voted for Hitler in 1932.
Yeah,
I see
yeah.
no difference between them.
Mm. Well, I hope
Yeah.
you're wrong,
I
because
agree.
it didn't pan out well for the world when Hitler
It
was
didn't,
elected.
did it? And I think for those of us in Europe and for Canadians as well, for the last 80 years, America has been our indispensable ally.
Yeah.
I think Latin Americans might have a different view, but Europeans and Canadians, they've been our indispensable ally for the last 80 years. And are they still an ally? Or should we start to treat America as a hostile state?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
For sure.
Oh,
He likes to keep people guessing. doesn't
He does.
with a friend like America, you might not need enemies.
Yes, there you go. Exactly.
he? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, leaving the other side of the Atlantic to his own devices, here in the UK, we've had an extension to a grant scheme which awards money, this is a government extension, to historic buildings from all faiths and allows leaders to claim back VAT on the cost of repairs and renovations. This was going to be scrapped, this grant, but it's now, the new government has now extended it until March 2026. And the Conservatives, who are now the opposition, one of them, the MP Sir Geoffrey Cox, urged the new Culture Minister, Sir Chris Bryant, not to withdraw this grant programme because that could be an act of Philistine vandalism, and for the sake of a few £1 million, it could put at risk all these extraordinary buildings.
I kind of feel if they want to have this privilege for churches, it should be extended to other buildings too. It shouldn't just be religious buildings. And if it was for castles and stately homes and whatnot, well, you can argue the merits of it or not the merits of it. But if it's only for churches, why?
Yes, indeed. Yes. It's a listed places of worship grant scheme. So it is only for churches. That's how I understand it. Oh, we're all moving about.
There's a way around this. And I hear what you say, Paul, and people who know me, South Africans who know me, will probably be aghast at what I'm going to say now. But John has toured the UK a little bit with me, and he knows that I absolutely adore those old cathedrals. I don't mind. I don't mind them being maintained for posterity at all, because maybe one day I'll be in the position to go there again. But what you say about other buildings, I wonder what the case is. For example, I've been to oh come on, it's in the north. It was the location for Pride and Prejudice.
Stately Home.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but most
Chatsworth.
of those, most Chatsworth. That's right. How can I forget?
Yeah.
And there's a chapel. So is it chapel at church?
It's a place of worship.
A little church.
It's a place of worship.
Yeah, but we've
Chatsworth belongs to one of the richest people in Britain. He can afford to keep it. He doesn't need any help from us.
Yes.
Okay.
And in any case, we already have the National Trust to look after old historic buildings that we want to preserve. But this particular grant is specifically for buildings of worship. So does it apply to mosques, to synagogues?
I suppose.
To, there you go. I'm not sure I approve of that. Yeah. I'm not sure I want my money spent
Well,
on that.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and part of me agrees, but then I mean some of those churches are just secular buildings. So I don't. So my preference is churches
Sure,
because
sure.
I've never been in a mosque, although certain mosques are beautiful, and I would love to see those buildings preserved, not
Well,
because
yeah.
buildings.
I share
Just
your
because they-
admiration. I share your admiration for historic architecture, but it's the buildings of worship bit that I don't like.
Worship.
I mean, I'd be happy
should be-
for them to
should
be
be-
turned into hospitals, museums, schools. I just don't want to be paying for worshippers.
I get that.
Turn it
Yeah.
around.
Or turn them over to the national. I mean, since there is already, turn them over to the National Trust to be maintained as not places of worship, but as places of historical importance.
Yes. I go for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, also here in the UK, circumcision rears its ugly head. Ooh, perhaps I should have. That was a bad choice of.
Yes, indeed.
Bad phrasing, I'm afraid. So what happened is what happened is there's a defrocked doctor, an ex-doctor, name of Mohammed Siddiqui, who has been sentenced to a 5-year custody in jail sanction for child cruelty and actual bodily harm related to the ritual circumcision of boys. The judge said the case has shown that safeguards and protections must now be put in place as a matter of urgency to ensure that babies and young children are protected. The mother of one of the victims described the unregulated nature of non-therapeutic circumcisions as being absurd and endangering the health of children. The fact that Siddiqui could carry on with such impunity and affect so many innocent lives is surely all the evidence that is needed to ensure this gap in legislation is addressed, she said. What do you think of that?
Hang on, I have questions. Sorry, I have to
do it. Why do it?
Tersia.
No, but what to know is, did this doctor take little baby boys without their parents' consent? So let's not talk about the child's consent. We know there's no, with circumcision, that doesn't happen. But did he take them after they were born, the mother not knowing, and circumcise them? Is that what happened?
I can't. It's a
if,
good question. I wish I could answer it. I'm afraid I can't. But he's.
And that's really important because.
Yes. The conviction,
this
though,
mother,
is for child cruelty and actual bodily harm.
Yeah, so what I would like to know is this mother who is complaining that it shouldn't happen, how did he get hold of her child? Because most cases of religious, and this was done on religious grounds, okay? So the parents give the child to the doctor and say, please circumcise my baby boy.
Sometimes. I don't know what happened in this case.
Exactly. But I can't imagine, I cannot for the life of me imagine a doctor in a hospital where baby boys are being born, babies are being born, take a child and saying, oh, I'm taking your baby now. I mean, I was in hospital with 3 children. The nurse even take your child unless you ask her to hold the baby while you want to do something. Or if they take the baby, they say, we have to take the baby for this injection or for this or to whatever. So if this child was given to this doctor to
Yeah.
circumcise, the parents must have known about it.
Yeah.
And
The
then
doctor
I
had
would
been
like to
struck
know,
off,
what
so he
about-
wasn't actually a doctor.
Well, I don't know whether he had been struck off then. He's subsequently been
Okay.
struck off.
Okay.
But the thing is, I was circumcised without my permission as a newly born. And I've no idea whether my parents were consulted or gave their permission. It was just something that was done. And
Right.
the fact is that it's still an unregulated practice which can be carried out by anyone without any requirement for medical training.
Which is
It's
ridiculous.
and that's the
Something
part
that was done.
That's the part that bothers me, because how can you a doctor for doing it, but rabbis are doing it constantly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially if you're punishing the doctor for being cruel. I mean, so it's cruel if a doctor does it, but it's not cruel if a rabbi does it?
I don't know whether the rabbis have been caught yet. I just know that this particular doctor, Mohammed Siddiqui, has just been sentenced.
But the thing is,
Well, if a rabbi has Moyle on his business card, he's guilty.
Yeah. And it's worse in that case because, it's a really strange ritual. Having cut the foreskin off the penis, do you know what the rabbi is supposed to do to the
Stick
bleeding?
it in his mouth. Stick the penis in his mouth. Yeah. Yeah.
How bizarre.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Let's stop it. It's stupid.
and so I'm sure it's not illegal. I'm sure it is very much
should
legal
be.
practice to circumcise.
It should be illegal. That's the point.
It should be illegal. But this is a very interesting case. I'd love to know more details because I'd like to know why he was struck the role and why he's going to jail. What did he do that other people who circumcise boys don't do? I'd really like to dig into the details. I think it's really important.
He got caught. That's what happened. Anyway, I'm moving you on now to another.
Okay.
To another. This is to another male reproductive item. You'll like this. Mississippi State Senator Bradford Blackman, a Democrat, has introduced a bill into the Mississippi State Senate, which would ban men from masturbating or engaging in other sexual acts when they have no intent to fertilize an embryo. Now, I've got a number of complaints about this because an embryo has already been fertilized. So the man obviously doesn't, he's talking out of his backside. He doesn't know what he's saying. And he means fertilize an egg. But in any case, this is an attempt to criminalize wanking. How are you going to enforce that?
Every sperm is sacred.
Yes.
Every sperm
Every sperm is great. If a sperm gets wasted, the Lord gets quite irate.
Yeah. Bring it on. Yeah.
And the lawmakers in Mississippi too.
Does that mean if
as
a woman is
menopausal-
pregnant, it's illegal for her to have sex with her husband?
Ooh.
Because
Really?
she wouldn't be attempting to fertilize an egg.
Good
Yeah.
boy.
True. Or even an embryo.
Oh, people.
These people are maniacs.
That
Yes,
is
yes.
bizarre.
Yes. Ignorant maniacs. Yes. Anyway,
I
I've got
remember
some good
reading
news
many,
for you.
many years ago in Singapore,
Yeah.
fellatio is illegal as an act in itself, but as a part of foreplay, it's not illegal.
Oh, right.
So,
I see.
If a man is being
Okay.
fellated in Singapore, he has to restrain himself or he's breaking the law.
Yeah, that's a good trick if you can do it. Yeah. Anyway, I've got some good news for you, because you may be aware of an ex-Muslim atheist in Nigeria, name of Mubarak Bala. He was the president of the Humanist Association of Nigeria, and he was arrested in 2020 for posting comments on Facebook that the Muslim lawyers deemed to be insulting to Islam. And there was a case in the northern part of Nigeria, Kano, and he's, for some inexplicable reason, he suddenly changed his plea to guilty and was sentenced to 24 years in prison. There was an appeal and the term was reduced. But here we are, I think it's 4 years later now, and he's released. However, though that's good news, he still remains in hiding, fearing for his life in a country where blasphemy laws and religious extremism are still around, and you really can't express any dissent against Islam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's all a matter of degrees. It's all a matter of degrees. You know, Canada, we abrogated our blasphemy laws in 1984, and yet there's underlying, culture that would have Pastafarians not be recognized by virtue of the fact that they just assume we're just blaspheming against the, accepted religions in Canada. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter where you go in the world. It's just more obvious in some places than it is in others. That's all.
Yeah. You've got to go with the mainstream of where you live.
Yeah.
I can perhaps update you, gentlemen, although it's by no means, I'm not claiming even by a far stretch to say that it's the same as the case in Nigeria. But I don't know how many of you know, whether you know, but in April last year, I took it upon myself as the CEO of Kruisvrij, a humanist and free skeptics organization. Somebody had broken the South African traffic laws and had glued or stuck 3D printed crosses this big, and they were glow in the dark, and these were stuck onto road traffic signs in very prominent places. And I removed them, and then I made a post on one of the local community pages to say, I removed these crosses from these traffic signs. So firstly, it's illegal in South Africa. You're not allowed to stick anything onto a traffic sign. And these were not little, these were major on a national thoroughfare, on a national road. And then a gentleman from one of the neighboring towns started attacking me, first on Facebook, and then he went so far as phoning my husband's business partner, threatening, he wanted to speak to me, and well, he didn't want to speak to me, he wanted to speak to my husband to get me to stop harassing Christians. It resulted in me, what ended up happening is I got a protection order, which was granted, but it's costing me a fortune. I could have probably gone to the UK to attend the Hitchmas if I didn't have to pay all these legal fees, because I had to get a lawyer. Yeah. And this person so he had to be in court 3 times. He didn't show up. And now there will be so now the last time before the interim protection order was going to be being made permanent, which would basically not sentence him, but it would have legal repercussions for him. So after 3 times not showing up to court, which is in contempt of court, he decided at the very last meeting date to appear in court, and he's contesting the case. So on the 13th of March, there will be a hearing. And but the effect that it's had on me, although I haven't been physically harmed and I haven't succumbed to the stress and the pressure of being called all sorts of names and insulted, but I do know that my husband's business suffered damages because he created a fake Facebook page in the name of the business saying that we traffic children because we are Satanists, and it's cost us a significant amount of money. But just to get this person to stop what he was doing. So I can identify with that type of reaction. So it remains to be seen what the outcome will be of the hearing. So when it happens, you be sure. I will let you know.
Nice.
You'll be on the news. We'll put you on Global Atheist News. Definitely.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
If I may say something that I see in BC a lot, I don't know how prevalent it is around in the other provinces, but our highways are being cluttered with crosses being put up at places where accidents have happened. And, and it's
shrines.
And it's in fact it's getting so extravagant that now it's up, one-upmanship. Who can pay for the better cross, and of course this is all done on public property, so they absolutely have no right to claim it as a Christian site of reflection or a graveyard. It's just it's really
we tend to have a more secular version here. When there's been a crash and a car's gone into a tree, the next day you see a load of flowers around the bottom of the tree.
Well, they do that for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's not specifically
but
religious.
Then they erect this monument, and it's getting.
I think in a way it shows how secular Britain has become.
It's
Despite our religious privilege of bishops in the House of Lords and things like that, that just the instinct of British people in that situation is to put flowers. It would look a bit odd if someone put a cross, I think.
It would. Yeah, that's right. However, to finish... Sorry, Tersia.
No, I just wanted to say it's worse. It's not crosses that are put up on at sites of accidents. Crosses, every single town has at least 1 or 2 crosses somewhere that says proclaims this town for Jesus, or so. I still get it that you want to put it if you're a religious person, if you're a Christian, you want to ask where somebody died, somebody that you love. Just for interest, I saw this the first time when I was in Greece in 1990, and what they would have there were like little temples almost, like so it's an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah. Well, I'm campaigning against it, as you know, and I'm proud to say that I actually feature in the news myself, because I've had an article. Yes, when I was in France at Christmas, I woke up in the middle of, it was Christmas night, and I woke up, and while I was awake in the middle of the night, I wrote this article, which has recently, last week, been published in The Freethinker. Now, The Freethinker has been going a couple of 100 years. It's now entirely online, but it was in print for most of that time. And the editor has chosen to make my article the headline, what you might call the front page item. So take a look at this. The image is not mine. That's for the cartoonist who shares the front page with me. But there you can see, I don't have a dream. Atheism UK's Break Free campaign. Atheism UK President John Richards on AUK's new Break Free campaign launched at Hitchmas last December. So I'm trying my best to take people away from this ludicrous fixation. In fact, it's an addiction to fiction that many people in the world have. So I'd like to encourage you to read my article. Just go to the Freethinker, and there it is, top and center.
So you could shorten that. You could combine those, a dick of fiction.
Yeah. I'm quoting from it. Addiction to fiction is in the article. Yeah. Anyway,
I like
guys,
that. Addiction.
you've been wonderful.
Dick
Yeah,
of
it's a
fiction.
catchy phrase, isn't it? Yeah. So, thank you very much. You've been wonderful as usual, and thank you for doing this on a Monday night because everything went wrong with my weekend. And if you want to stay and chat with me, I'll tell you some of what happened. But otherwise, thank you very much. Take the rest of the day off. Say bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Cheers,
Bye.
guys.
Was the Pope appealing for peace or was he praying for peace?
And the same applies to the carried and dragged.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what do you have to say about that guy?